Hey, it's Courtney, your host of Environmental Style Now, the A to Z podcast on all that is sustainable fashion. On this part one episode of ES Now, we had the dynamic documentary filmmaker and natural couture fashion designer, Jeff Garner, who wants you to know what toxins you come in contact with just by wearing your clothes. This is a deep dive into the toxicology of fast fashion. Hello, I'm Courtney Barriger, and on this episode of ES Now, I have special guest Jeff Garner, whose fashion line Prophetic is debuting a brand new collection at London Fashion Week in September, the same day as the official release of his groundbreaking documentary, Let Them Be Naked, comes out on Amazon worldwide. Okay, this is a major accomplishment in the eco-fashion movement, and wow, do we have an eye-opening episode all about the ways that your clothes can harm you. Well, Jeff just has a fascinating history, and his research will change your life. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. All right, I'm so happy to have you. So let's talk about your documentary and what initially sparked your interest in investigating toxins in clothing and textiles.
Wow, investigating. I like that word. I think it was more or less a journey of 22 years I've been doing this. So I kept trying to figure out how to make this available to others and to bring awareness to a platform that actually could reach people. Because doing catwalk shows around the world and talking about it and TED Talks that get buried and all this stuff doesn't really get the awareness out. And it's funny, we launched the film this year in the film festival circuit, and now, I can count on my hand how many people now are talking about the connection between what you wear and how it affects your health, which, wasn't talked about at all before we started with the film. So I love seeing what's happening, however that's happening, whether people are listening or it's becoming a tagline. I don't know, but it's great. But yeah, I just knew basically my mom passed of breast cancer. And when she passed, I was like, okay, Jeff, you have to figure this out. No more catwalk shows, no more speaking engagements. How do you get this out there? And so the only platform I figured out is documentary. Didn't realize how hard that was, which was kind of funny. Everyone's like, yeah, Jeff, go do a doc, have fun. And then I had friends that are in the industry like, hey, I want to do this, do that. And they're like, pat me on the back. Okay, yeah, good luck, Jeff. And literally, and this isn't to speak like, oh, look at how I pulled it together, but literally, I got the funding in a week, went to filming the next month, filmed around the world because I already knew all this stuff. I already had the friends, already had the experts. So I just said, hey, listen, I'm coming to you next week. They're like, okay. And so, yeah, we put it together within a year time frame, which is unheard of. So, because every day in my book, every day counts. Every day a mom is affected. Every day a person unbeknown to them is being affected. And even today, an article released on the finally, and my toxicologist who I talked into being in the film was like, had no, he's like in, he's one of the top toxicologists in Tennessee, and he's in like emergency room stuff. And he's like, yeah, I haven't really thought about this. And then now all he's doing is thinking about it. Anyways, there's an article released today about PFABs connected to, health issues, et cetera, mainly for gut stuff. And everyone just thought I was like a kook or something, like just talking about this. And oh, he doesn't have a medical degree or whatever, even though I'm a science background and chemist background. But anyways, so I love seeing how it's connecting now. So
It seems you're not kidding though. Since you did the small release around Mother's Day, that's when I watched your film. I have also seen an uptick in conversations, and even in my book tour, people are like, "Wait, what did you just say about toxicology for me?" In the past, I don't know why, but nobody cared.
mhm.
So I think that it's just amazing that you were the absolute perfect person to pull this off. Um, yeah.
Well, are the craziest person. I don't know which one, but I have lived this and breathed it, and all that to say is that I've seen so many players in this in our space, right? And I know you got a book out, of similar content, and that what you run into is these, for some reason, these egos, and everyone's striving to find a voice or have a voice, or this is their platform. And now with the Instagram model, it's like how many likes and how much energy can I, because they're trying to monetize that medium. And it's like, you know, one thing, I'm a hippie. I don't care about money. Two, that's never been my reasoning to do anything. So I used to be part of this group called the Eco Warrior S and one dude or something like that. I can't remember, but I was like a guy amongst all these ladies in sustainability queens, I call them, and they couldn't get along. And because they all had different agendas and this and that and the other. And I realized really quickly it takes community to get this to go to shift and change. It's not one person, it's not one agenda, it's not one project, and so the idea of the film was to have it be like it's almost like a cavalry charge. It's like, okay, I'm gonna angle it and drive it straight down the center. If everyone get behind the film, all these experts, everyone, if we would have met, I would have had you in it as well. And like all these experts trying to do similar things, get behind it and push, then we can break through, because each individually we're only going to get so far. And then, and I've been doing this so long, I've seen people start and then now they're done, they're out of the business, they're doing something completely opposite out of sustainability, and we all know those people, and they get, because it's frustrating when you try to passionately work on something and you don't see the shift or change happen. So anyways, that's my hope for this film, and it may happen in our lifetime or maybe not, but at least it exists and people have the awareness, and yeah, and hopefully, we can drive it forward.
I think it stands a very, very good chance. I mean, look, it's in the best position possible. Out of everything that I've seen, and I've only been here, in this world, in the eco world for 10 years, and I've been mostly doing it behind the scenes. Like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. This is it. So, so I think that it's funny describing it as like an arrow or a cavalry charge. I always thought of it as an arrow, but a cavalry charge, now
Well,
that is everyone because everyone's with you.
well, that's it. It's like, think about it. It's like an arrow that pierces the center, and then you can route, everyone up. But you got to break through. A great visual analogy, which most people may or may not have seen. There's a film called Patriot with Mel Gibson a long, long time ago. And I'm obviously a little bit older than you, but there's a great scene in there where obviously New America's rebellion and against the British, and they're winning this battle, and everyone's retreating and everyone's chaotic and nobody knows what's going on. And Mel sees the American flag that's ripped apart falling, fell down, the flag bearer. He runs without hesitation. Everyone's retreating, picks up the flag, starts running forward. And people are like confused, like, wait a minute, seems like we're retreating, but this flag's going forward. So I guess we turn around and we'll start fighting. And what happened was he changed, whether it was true to history or not, but it changed the trajectory of the battle in which they moved forward as a unit, as a group, and they won and they outflanked the British. And so to me, that's, if we can keep this flag up long enough and drive it forward, we will break through because we're dealing with science, peer-reviewed research, we're dealing with humans, and their own bodies that we live once, right? We got to take care of our own health. We're living with, spiritual connection to fabric and soil and dyes. And I just think the human consciousness, if we can hold the space long enough and just equip everyone, we can bring back the power of choice to consumers, and they'll choose better for themselves. Not everyone, because we're dealing not with just awareness, we're dealing with addiction, right? People are addicted to convenience, fast fashion, cheap price points. And I always educate everyone on this because I know you're in the space of eco or sustainability, however you want to word it. I've been in the space of fashion design and sustainability, and one of the things we struggle and deal with is people like, oh, you guys are too costly, too expensive. That's great, Jeff, but you're talking to the elitists. I'm like, guys, I'm a country boy. I grew up in the South on the farm. I'm not an elitist. What I am is practical. I cannot grow this hemp and make it anymore in the US. I have to bring it in from Canada or other places. We're trying to, New Zealand we're growing. I go, this fabric is the like perfect fabric. It's antibacterial, antifungal, strongest tensile strength. I go, you want definitely want to wear this over polyester. And you have to look at it like you're going to avoid paying all these hospital bills. And let's talk about impotence. And let's talk about your absorption rate of these chemicals and what it does in your bloodstream. And if that's not good enough, let's talk about how your body fatigues because it's not getting oxygen in it because it blocks it, it's non-permeable. And then if you're playing a sport or out in the sun, whatever, you get tired, fatigued. I go, that alone, and you're buying sport drinks to like pump up your energy, caffeine to pump up your energy, these pills to pump up your energy, you're gonna save a lot of money wearing my hemp t-shirt over that, you know, piece of shit, sorry, polyester, shirt that's going to fall apart. And it's called design obsolescence, where they teach designers and or producers, manufacturers how to sew up garments so that they fall apart. So it drives the consumer back into the store. And it's a common practice. And if you're in fashion, you know this, you know the stitches, you know that single stitch is going to fall apart underneath the armpit because of anything with pressure, that pulls at it. And these are things that the regular consumer doesn't quite understand or get. And so all that to say is that my hemp is $10 a yard versus, well, actually it's more now because of other things, but $14 a yard versus $1 a yard. You're never, ever, ever going to have a t-shirt to match the cheap price point of fast fashion made in China, made of synthetics, and we can't compete. And if anyone tries, they're not doing it properly. And so somebody's paying for that cheap price point, and it's not you, and it's usually the people making it. So everyone knows about fair wages, fair trade, all that stuff. It's all been kind of shown around the world. But I'm talking about, hey, these are cheap, cheap, cheap ingredients. How does it affect your health? Because
Hmm.
it goes on your body, goes in your body. And so that's what I'm about. I'm focused on that one narrative because my hemp t-shirts are 40, $45 a piece. There's no way. But James Pierce is $80. There's no reason because they may be cotton, but they're dyed synthetically. They're not made better than mine. I guarantee that. And mine are a better fit, but no, I'm kidding. Um, but all that to say is that there's no reason his is 80 versus other than the name, marketing, right? But my true price point to sell them is 40, 45. And that's just the way. My hemp boxers are the same way. So that's the one thing that we're up against. But if we can get more people know about this, want to change their wardrobe, go into natural fibers, natural dyes, then it'll help drive the price point down because that volume obviously will help. And then, the guys making the hemp will be able to grow more. We'll be able to bring more sewing into, let's say, the US, our local sewing practices, et cetera. So, yeah, so it's like cart before the horse, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love actually that you're speaking to men directly too. The sustainability space is so directed toward women generally. So I know if more men knew about fatigue happening because of their clothes, come on.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we
it's
could
a
we could
yeah.
our balding. You want to talk about the nylon trucker caps that kill the hair follicles? We can talk about that. Sun hits it, goes straight into the hair follicles. So obviously, I don't have a problem with balding. I did cut my hair for locks of love. It's now kind of shorter, kind of crazy.
Did you really? Must have been
Yeah, it was
insane.
long. You got to do 11 inches for locks of love. That's for the cancer patients. I did that for our film and my mom. But anyways, but yeah, so yeah, that's true. So it does create baldness as well.
Wow. It's sort of like bringing awareness to the ingredients that go into a Big Mac. And when finally people started to understand the difference of quality of food, I mean, they immediately understand that they should be eating organic or
Mhm.
at least trying that you can actually solve disease by eating healthy food. So I want to talk a little bit about your experience with um, the chemistry and toxicology, and were you doing that before the documentary? Were you also testing fabrics and seeing what was in them?
Are you asking, was I kind of geeking out, not sleeping at nights? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm framed that way. Just to give you some background, again, I grew up on the farm in Tennessee. My grandfather was the first chemist Oppenheimer hired for the Manhattan Project. So, and most people know because of the film, like they think about, New Mexico, but the other place was in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, up in the mountains. So they basically learned how to, you know, they created the fuel there and the bomb at the other place. So my grandpa was awesome growing up with because we just played in his basement and I was his right hand guy and we made things and engines and built my own go-kart and built a house and by hand and anyways fun stuff like that and
Like a dream
electronics.
childhood.
Yeah, we'd build radios and talk to each other. It was fun. Anyways, so he was brilliant, smart, and I guess I inherited his kind of disposition of how to analyze things and create and problem solve. So that's what I did in this. I had a full ride to West Point Academy, nuclear arms program. I said no way, and I wanted to use my brain for this. So like I love figuring out colors for dyes and that kind of thing. So yeah, I kind of yeah, challenge, and here's the thing, these studies that are, they have to be financed. It's expensive for us to do the testing, for example, of the bras that we did for the film. It was about $2,500 just for doing like three or four different chemicals. So like whether we tested formaldehyde, nonylphenol, whatever we were testing, it costs that much. So imagine if you as a consumer have a bra that you want to test, make sure it's clean. One, you have to find a lab that will do it for you because usually it's for the industry. So it has to be an independent lab. And then two, it'll take you probably 3 to 4 weeks to get the results back, and it'll be about $2,500. So no one's going to do that. Um, and they were, and I don't know how to say this properly, but I will just say it. Simply, those lab businesses are kind of built for. I mean, not kind of, they are built for who the client is. Their client is industry based who wants to get these products, cleared. So they're going to give them the results they want more or less. And if they don't, the client just won't share those other results. You see, so the problem we're dealing with, and is that none of it's regulated. There's no regulation. There's no accountability system. So the reality is we don't really know what's in it. And even if it's tested or certified, did somebody actually spend that money and test the end result product? The answer is no.
Hmm. Also
So
trade, yeah, wow.
so then everyone asks, well, how do you know, Jeff? It's like, well, you really need to know who's making the product and trust them and know them. So, that you can see I'm doing my plant-based dyes and you can see what my fabrics are. So you're going to know that mine are clean, But if a company's claiming certain things and it may be a mixed fabric or maybe they're manufactured in India, you don't know about their dyes. So that's 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 why we need some type of accountability to take place so consumers can feel safe buying a product unless they want to go down the rabbit hole and become like a MacGyver and investigate and figure this stuff out. And that's basically in a nutshell is why we've never heard about this. It's why there is no regulations because of the manpower it take, and why these companies been able to get away with it forever and ever and ever because in my opinion, it's a liability issue and it's a public health issue. Because if you were my sister, let's say, I would definitely want to make sure you knew what was in your bra and your shirt you're wearing, your hair product, like the whole thing. And I'd want to take care of you. And it's not that consciousness doesn't exist in our industry, unfortunately. It's commerce driven and that's it. But I'll leave the comment with this. It can be done. So that's why in the documentary we mentioned we bring into play people that are doing it and doing it properly in a scalable way.
Mm.
you know. And that's why I wanted to make sure the documentary wasn't just about, okay, here's the problem, let me spook everyone and then make them feel bad and shameful. And no, it's not about that. It's about here's a discovery, here's what we've been working on forever. Here's what I've been able to do and journey on this journey for others that are doing it as well and these different levels. And it's hopeful. It's reassuring that we can move in this direction.
What are some of the visions that you have or that you've talked to, industry leaders about, to implement some of the accountability?
With the doc, because like I said, it's kind of like it helps with the cavalry charge because they know it's going to get out there in the world and they can't stop it. The lawmakers now are looking at it as a liability issue. So they're like, we need to make some policy changes right now before it gets out and then people start getting upset. So we're already seeing that happening in the UK, especially Toronto, New York, and LA. So, that to me, we had that happen over Christmas, and we showed the film to a group of lawmakers in the UK, and they came out of the box and said, "Listen, we were presenting a bill about environmental stuff, hair products, this and that." And they're like, "We never ever thought about clothing until we
Mm.
saw your doc and read the book. Can you help us draft it?" So I helped them draft and add an addendum to the bill to cover what we're wearing. And so it was the first of its kind presented to the UK Parliament. And yeah, so that is amazing because then once you bring it to that place of law and policy, then people realize, oh, this is a real tangible issue. This is not just hearsay or, again, somebody trying to get followers on a account or something. This is real. And that's why they know I'm not going to back down or stop because I'm doing this for my mom. I'm doing it for my hippie dad who also lost to cancer. I'm doing it for all the people. I lost a daughter as well. Like all the people that we all know that have had effects, sad effects in our life because of these unknown diseases. So we don't know where they come from exactly. And you mentioned the food industry earlier. Like we get the food thing, but if you look at biology, is basically we have mechanisms designed to protect us from food, right? We have esophagus, we have a mouth we have stomach acid, we have kidneys, we have liver, and we have things that protect us. Skin, we have nothing. You and I were both designed to be nude all the time. So our skin obviously absorbs, breathes, and takes things in. And so what you find is that in this peer review research with the 37% is that it goes through the hair follicles. So that's if you're sitting still in a cool area. If you're in a humid area, it's more so. If you're working out, more so. So the reality is we don't really know how much we're taking in, but we are taking it in. And we do know that it off gases and it doesn't just stay on the garment. You could just do a test of your own laundry water and know what's in it. So that is going into your system as well. And that's the whole point of this is that if we can just get people to understand that one idea, then they're going to change their detergents, they're going to change their bra or take off their bra, they're going to change their underwear and their sheeting. Those are my things. I say, okay, start here. Don't be overwhelmed. Focus, start here.
What are some of the biggest chemicals that they should be looking out for? And how do they know, how do they know how to spot it? How do they know how to
Hmm.
avoid it?
I call this a chemical name game. So it's a funny, funny game the industry does. And again, these guys are brilliant. They've been doing this for so long. The chemical industry is like one company is like 75 billion a year in profit. Like there's no way we can compete, out maneuver, out smart, out PR them. So they'll change the name of a chemical that we gets in the headlines, like PFAS, for example. They already got 10 others already introduced that do the same thing and are just as bad. But we'll get PFAS off the chart, off the map. But then what about these new ones? Then we have to do it again. It's like when they had this hair product that was like all the ladies were using. It was like dry shampoo. And you know about it because it was a big thing and it got sued and they won, blah, blah, blah. They introduced it back on the market with a different name,
Hmm.
and that's the game that they play, unfortunately, and they have the power and the leverage and they pay off lawmakers, et cetera. We all know this world and it exists. So what consumers can do is, basically they can just be thoughtful and conscious. I mean, I just stick to natural fibers, natural dyes. It's that simple. Don't even try to venture down that road of these man-made fabrications and dyes. Because if they're man-made, it's a play, a marketing of saying it's natural. If they say it's cellulose based, okay, what does that mean? You
Mhm.
know, the rest of the ingredients aren't pure. It's like saying it's organic chicken, and then you look and it's another ingredients are not, right? It's that whole kind of play to get you in the door, and then you'll buy and then not look at the rest. Um, but if you're sincere about it, you just need to know, and the thing is, we consume way too much. So if you kind of slow down your buying power, say, okay, I'm going to go home tonight, look at my wardrobe after I listen to this. I think Jeff's crazy, but let me look. And everyone does this. And I've shown the film in the film festivals last year. We have 16 awards on it right now. And I've listened, we did, I think, 18 film festivals. So went to all of them, Q&As, etc., which is great study. I mean, in Zurich, we had like 30 scientists there. In Glasgow, they were like ready to burn it all down. They were so angry, that they didn't know about this. It was cool to get the different responses. But all the questions go back to, and everyone came back to me and said, listen, I went through my wardrobe and I had maybe 10% natural fibers in my wardrobe. And they didn't know about the dyes, so we didn't even go there. But chances are they weren't naturally dyed, right? But they found at least 10% of the wardrobe was natural fibers. That's not a good ratio. And so a lot of them said, okay, what do I do with the clothes? I'm like, well, somebody's going to wear them because not everyone's going to want this lifestyle. So you can let them use them. We've made enough clothes already in the world to clothe everyone for like the next 50, 100 years. So we don't need to make anything else. So, or you can incinerate clothing and it takes it back to its natural form. That's the other way of doing it. But incinerators are expensive. But there are companies, I won't name names, that do their new inventory and incinerate it so nobody will use it and it won't be discounted. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't know in the fashion industry, but it's a dirty secret and they all do it. Helps their bottom line. Then they write it off, get a tax break. We didn't put that in the film because that's a whole nother thing, but that is another issue. So back to so the idea is that you go through wardrobe and 10%, and then you're like, okay, well, let's start replacing it. Well, just do due diligence at that point. You're starting over. It's like, you went through a bad breakup relationship. Well, you're going to do due diligence next time. You're going to go, I call it 3 cups of tea. You're going to go out to 3 cups of tea before you decide to date someone. After 3 cups of tea, you'll know what they're about. They're going to tell you. Everyone shares it. Same thing with the industry and the companies and the people pitching stuff. Just don't, jump in the sack with them the first date. There's something off. Everyone's going to be their best, the shiny, pitch it, the great. Go behind the scenes, see what else is there. If they can't answer your questions, then chances are, if you say, "Hey, is this plant-based?" and they come back like, "Oh, we use water-based, less da 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 da," then you're like, "Okay, it's not plant-based. I cannot purchase that." But you can say, hey, do you have any undyed product? And is it
Mm.
bleach free? And then you can buy that and dye it yourself. So there are solutions, but it's just people don't care enough right now to ask those questions. So why are they going to do it? And that's the thing.
Got to scare them into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
sorry, I talk a lot,
No, no, no. It's a lot to think
but I'm,
about.
I'm, yeah, I'm passionate about it, as you can tell.
It's a lot to think about. Um, it's just unfortunate because most clothing, even if it is, hemp or linen or something, chances are it doesn't say if it's naturally dyed or any kind of marker about where the dye came from or what country even did the dyeing. I mean, I know that there's a lot of chemicals that we can't use in the States that you can use in Bangladesh and India or,
Sure.
wherever. Um, but if it ends up over here and it ends up in your body and it ends up in the wash and in the water systems, what's the difference? You know? why can't, I mean, would the future to you look like an ingredients label that is just like food that has all of the additives on
Exactly.
there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, so that's how you can perceive it as like, okay, well, this is a product now that we know that like food, it goes in your body. See, that's a synergy of connection. It's like, oh, you put it inside your body. Well, now we've proven clothing goes inside your body too. Okay. So now we got to look at it completely different. That's why it's a health issue, public health issue. So now we need to list those ingredients because we're absorbent, just like skin product. So that's the next step. So that's what we're going after policy wise. So the unfortunate bit, these manufacturers don't know. These designers don't know. It's like extra homework they don't want to do. They know it's toxic and chemical. They look the other way. I love it when Zach Posen did the Delta Uniforms airline, for the purple ones, and he got sued and he blamed on his manufacturer. And I was
Ah,
like, really? You knew what was in it. And the manufacturer's like, what? We just did what he wanted us to do. And, it's all that blame game thing. And then his company went out of business, but now he's designing for Gap. And I'm like, oh, great, here we go. There's no consciousness there. It's all about mass consumption, production. And nobody, the leaders should be asking the questions. Hey, what's in this dye? How's it affecting people? What's in this fabric? How it's affecting people? That's a true leader. I'm sorry. I've met him several times and like, no, that's not, you're not, that's a conscious thing that you need to address or stop designing. If I don't know. I just don't think anyone would want to make or design or create something that's going to hurt another individual.
yeah. Especially
And we're too,
if they know.
well, that's it. We're too smart and we know too much, and everyone in the industry knows what's in it. It's like you go to McDonald's, you know exactly what's in those fries and Big Mac. But if you want to have it, cool, have it. But don't pretend like you don't know what's in it and that's not good for you. You can't sit there and be like, I eat McDonald's every day and I'm super healthy.
Yeah,
You know?
no one really walks in the room and brags about eating McDonald's. Like,
Yeah, it's like great. You had a hunger thing, whatever, go for it. But don't pretend, like it's a health food and walk into the gym and like, no, everyone know like this that's the thing with clothing. Science is there. It's just science. It's not personal. It's not a game. It's there.
what about okay, I've seen a decent amount of like hemp-based activewear popping up and things like that. I have not seen a single swimsuit. I don't see anything that's like an alternative to polyester for the swimwear industry. What's up with that? What are the
Well,
options?
well, I used to design for some surf companies. I tried early in 2010 to get them to shift and change. I won't name names. And you know, at the time, strangely enough, I was dating the daughter of one of the owners of these surf companies. So I thought, okay, and she was the marketing person. I was like, listen, this guys would be great. Let's make it out of this product. I know it's safe and da da da. And off gases, you're on the beach, sun hits it. That's the major component of heating it up. Um, and they basically said, Jeff, we can't make money off of this. It's bottom line stuff, and nobody cares. I'm like, you're in the surf industry. You are a surfer. You live on the beach like I do. Like, can we not please do something? And they just said no. And then I went to the Surfrider Foundation and they thought about it. But, I'm like, you guys are talking about ocean pollution, microplastics. Guys, have you looked at your laundry water? No, they had no idea. And I gave them the facts and figures. And I'm like, and it was funny when I was doing this doc, they were like, "Oh yeah, we only focus on ocean docks and microplastic." I'm like, "You kidding me?
What?
Like, this is one of the major components, and here's why." And I presented everything to them, and we did our own. And by the way, we did our own tests for microplastics, and one of our scientists in the film is a microplastic expert and scientist. So we showed them exactly what's in the laundry water from the polyester shirts. And it's shocking that they had no idea or couldn't connect the dots. I'm like, guys, I grew up on the beach in Malibu, doing laundry on the beach. I'm surfing out front of my place. I know exactly what's going in and out of that water. I go, detergents, do you know what's in that? Like, why aren't you addressing these things that could easily be changed? And so then you learn
Especially
very
if,
quick,
yeah, if they're the brand, it doesn't make any, it's some kind of
doesn't
cognitive disconnect right there.
it is. And it's like, but you guys are basing an apparel brand, masking as a surf company that cares about the oceans. Like, huh, where's the knight in shining armor that's going to do things differently and say this is how it can be done? So to answer your question, yes, swimsuits can be done in a non-toxic way. I'm working on it. The problem is everyone's like, Jeff, do this, do that, do that. I'm like, I've been in this world enough. Like I have over 600 patterns. Like if you want yoga pants, I can make them. If you want swim trunks, I can make them. Whatever. I have it. The problem is I don't have the resources there's no way. I would definitely, I'm a solo gun. I'd pass out. I would just, I'd go in the ocean or ride my horse in the woods and never come back. I was never designed to make all these things, but I want to help people. First, you got to create the demand, then you make the product. So that's what I'm trying to do first. And then, but yeah, if a swimsuit like I was trying to do back then, hopefully this film will educate them and they'll be like, oh, great, this is a new market. Let's ride this out, even if it's only 10% of our sales. And so they'll work with somebody like you or myself and do it properly. That's my goal with this, and to give us all new opportunities to do these things right. But they're not going to do it unless they see. And the business of fashion this year as well just came out with an article and said, they basically quoted like, is this on the rise? Is sustainable fashion on the rise? All because of the film. They saw the film as well. So they're kind of prepping this idea that things are going to shift. So I do believe it can be done. Right now, the reason it's not being produced is because the price point, the COG of making that product it's too risky for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why. And even though it's a surf company, whatever, people don't want to pay. Again, they're all trying to keep their price points low. I don't know what. There's not like, I can't even think of a high-end surf company. I get a French brand to make my wetsuit out of natural rubber, and they're awesome, but they're small. They're like me. It's like me and my hem boxers. It's kind of like one item. They do it really well, and that's it, because that's all the resources we can have, And the other companies don't want to do it as well. I went to Jockey Underwear, and a friend of mine is the president, owns it. Or it's family owned, but he runs it for the family, and they didn't want to work with me because they thought it would bastardize the rest of their line. But I'm like, you guys started on socks. You made your underwear out of cotton. Like, it's not a far-fetched idea to like circle back around and be like, sorry, we left kind of that idea. Now we're coming back, working with Jeff to do this kind of clean product and present it to the world. I was like, we're talking about bastardize the rest of your product. People are still going to buy the cheap stuff, but at least present something. It's like being a vegetarian or vegan, like at least present something that they can eat, that they can wear. That was so, but they shut me down too, because he said, I have a responsibility to the family to make, the budgets, and I don't want people to lose their jobs. I'm like, wow. So it's mainly the money guys, the accounting guys saying no. And unfortunately, a lot of these companies are been bought out, these brands. I don't know, other than the guys who put in the film, I don't know many designer-owned brands anymore. And yeah, there will be more solutions, more answers on the table for consumers to purchase once we do the heavy lift and get everybody behind it and wanting it. It's got to go through that stage next, and it will inspire people to do things differently.
We have hit the halfway point of Jeff's remarkable story. So catch part 2 of this episode in 2 weeks' time, well in advance of the premiere of his documentary, Let Them Be Naked, on Amazon. And in the meantime, follow him on Instagram, @LetThemBeNaked, to stay up to date with all the upcoming events. Thanks for listening, and that's a wrap.
Hey, it's Justin, coming from Beverly Hills. Yes Now is a Holding Court production. It is written and directed by Courtney Barriger, with music by Parker Ainsworth, and a special thank you to Alexander Shuck.